Imagine waking up in 2026 and realizing your life is completely transformed. Not because you made a massive leap, not because luck finally smiled on you, but because you committed to 3 tiny shifts that changed everything. What if I told you that 3 small choices repeated consistently could unlock the energy, focus, relationships, and mindset that most people spend decades chasing? Today, I'm going to show you how to take control, ignite momentum, and step into the results you've been dreaming about. The power isn't somewhere out there. It's already in your hands waiting for action. The truth is, most people underestimate the force contained inside the smallest decisions of their day. They wait for a big breakthrough, a massive change, a dramatic turning point, not realizing that the real transformation begins with something as simple as a tiny shift. One tiny shift in how you show up, one tiny shift in how you think, one tiny shift in what you choose to tolerate or not tolerate anymore. When you stack those small changes day after day, they don't add up, they multiply. That's where the power is. Think about it. Every major result in your life, whether it was success, a relationship, a moment of growth, didn't come from one giant move. It came from a series of small actions you repeated. Most people never realize that those little adjustments could be the difference between staying stuck for another year or walking into 2026 with results they once thought were impossible. A small shift might be something as simple as waking up 15 minutes earlier, not to overhaul your life, but to create a little space to breathe, think, or plan. That small act may not seem like much on day one, but stack it for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Suddenly you're operating from clarity instead of chaos. You're making decisions from intention, not reaction. That's a tiny shift creating a massive ripple. Or maybe it's the decision to pause before reacting, taking 2 seconds to breathe instead of exploding, shutting down, or running away. Doesn't sound impressive, right? But those 2 seconds can save a relationship, change a conversation, shift the energy in your home, or open a door that would have stayed shut. We think we need big emotional breakthroughs when in reality, those little pauses are the moments where your life pivots. Another small shift, asking yourself a better question. Most people go through their day asking themselves questions that sabotage their power. Why is this happening to me? Why can't I get a break? Why do things never work out? Imagine replacing just one of those questions with something more empowering. What can I do right now? What's one step I can take? What's the opportunity hidden in this? That micro shift in your inner dialogue rewires the direction of your life. Where focus goes, energy flows, and that tiny shift changes your focus instantly. And here's what most people get wrong. They assume small shifts don't matter because they don't feel dramatic. They don't feel life changing in the moment. They want fireworks. They want the emotional high. They want the big moment that knocks them into action. But small shifts don't need an audience. They don't need applause. They work quietly, silently, consistently. They build strength the way lifting a small weight every day builds muscle, 1 microtear at a time. You don't see the change on day 1. But check again in 6 months, and you're not even the same person. If you look closely at people who succeed, not the lucky ones, but the ones who create results on purpose, they all have one thing in common. They honor the small shifts. They respect them. They repeat them. And eventually, those small shifts become part of their identity. That's the moment when effort becomes effortless and discipline becomes automatic. That's when results accelerate. Imagine what happens if you choose just 3 small shifts and commit to them every day until 2026. Not 300 shifts, not a complete lifestyle overhaul, just 3 micro actions. Maybe you shift the first 10 minutes of your morning. Maybe you shift the way you talk to yourself when things get tough. Maybe you shift your evening routine so you finish the day with intention instead of exhaustion. These aren't big moves. These are small hinges that swing big doors. And the truth is, you already know this deep down. There's a part of you that knows the life you want isn't far away. It's not hidden behind some giant mountain you need to climb. It's sitting on the other side of 3 simple behaviors you haven't fully committed to yet. 3 tiny shifts that could change the way you feel, the way you act, the way you think, the way you lead, the way you love, and the way you show up in this world. When you look back in 2026, you won't say, it was the massive leap that changed everything. You'll say, it was the small shift I made that day, and the next day, and the next that created the momentum I've been waiting for my entire life. And that's the moment everything changes. Most people never realize that the biggest limitations in their lives don't come from the world around them. They come from the story they tell themselves every day. It's not the economy, it's not the government, it's not the people who doubted them. It's the mindset they operate from, the beliefs they've accepted as truth, the patterns they repeat without even noticing. And the moment you understand that, the moment you take full ownership of the meaning you assign to your experiences, everything begins to shift. A single thought can steer your day. A single belief can shape your future. A single interpretation of a situation can either shut you down or propel you forward. And the crazy thing is, most people never question those automatic thoughts. They've been thinking the same way for years, reacting the same way for years, seeing themselves the same way for years, and somehow expecting their life to change. It doesn't work like that. You can't build a new life with an old mindset. You can't craft a powerful future with beliefs that tell you you're not enough. You can't walk into 2026 with the same internal dialogue that kept you stuck in the past. But here's the good news. A mindset shift doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be some huge awakening. Sometimes it's as simple as catching yourself in the moment you're about to spiral and choosing a different perspective. That tiny mental adjustment is often the difference between a day that breaks you and a day that builds you. Maybe the shift is moving from why is this happening to me to why is this happening for me? That one question changes the emotional state you operate from. It turns you from a victim into a creator. Suddenly, obstacles look like opportunities. Challenges become training ground. Delays become redirection, not punishment. And when you adopt that mindset, your energy changes. Your decisions change, your results change. Or maybe the shift is noticing that old belief that whispers, I'm not good enough, and responding with, what if I am? What if you've been underestimating yourself? What if the ceiling you thought you hit wasn't real? It was just inherited thinking, old conditioning, someone else's opinion you accidentally treated like truth. Most people have been living a life that's smaller than their potential, not because they're incapable, but because their mindset is outdated. They're using old software to run a new life. And it takes courage to challenge your own thinking. It takes courage to unlearn beliefs that have been with you since childhood. It takes courage to stop giving power to thoughts that don't serve you. But the moment you start questioning those automatic assumptions, is this actually true? Does this belief empower me? Who would I be without this thought? You begin to break patterns that have controlled you for years. A mindset shift can be as simple as training your brain to look for what's right instead of what's wrong. Most people live in a state of constant scanning for problems. What's missing? What's broken? Who disappointed them? What didn't work? And whatever you focus on expands. If you focus on problems, you attract more of them. If you focus on possibility, your brain starts showing you opportunities you were blind to before. That's how you move from frustration to progress. It's a shift of focus, not a shift of circumstances. And sometimes the shift is emotional. When you feel fear, instead of letting it freeze you, you reinterpret it as a sign that you're growing. When you feel overwhelmed, instead of collapsing, you view it as a signal to prioritize. When you feel doubt, instead of backing down, you treat it as the doorway to the next level of your life. These internal interpretations dictate your actions far more than the situations themselves. Change the meaning, and you change your life. The truth is, your mindset is the lens through which you see everything, your relationships, your goals, your failures, your future. If the lens is cloudy, distorted, or cracked, the world will look darker than it really is. But you don't fix the world, you clean the lens. That's the shift. The world doesn't change first. You change first, then everything around you begins to reflect that new perspective. And when you allow yourself to upgrade that internal lens, just a little, not a total overhaul, just a small, intentional adjustment, you start to experience breakthroughs without forcing them. You become more resourceful, more creative, more empowered. You make decisions from your higher self instead of your fearful self. You stop sabotaging your progress. You stop shrinking to fit the expectations of others. You start stepping into who you were meant to be. Imagine entering 2026 not with the mindset that life happens to you, but with the mindset that life responds to you. Imagine the doors that would open, the courage you'd unlock, the potential you'd access. Imagine how your relationships, your work, your energy, your confidence would transform simply because you decided to shift the way you think. Everything starts in the mind. Change the thought, and you change the feeling. Change the feeling, and you change the action. Change the action, and you change the outcome. Change the outcome consistently, and you change your entire life. That's the power of a mindset shift. Quiet, subtle, but life-altering when you commit to it. If there's one thing that silently steals more potential, more dreams, more energy than anything else today, it's distraction. Not the big, dramatic distractions. Those are easy to spot. I'm talking about the small, subtle, constant distractions that slip into your day unnoticed. The tiny moments where your attention gets pulled, your focus gets fractured, your intention gets diluted. And the crazy part is, most people don't even realize how much power they're giving away. One notification, one thought, one impulse at a time. Focus is the new superpower in a world where everyone is overstimulated, overwhelmed, and overloaded. The person who can control their attention controls their life. Most people wake up and immediately hand their focus over to the world. Social media, emails, messages, noise. They start their day reacting instead of directing. They don't choose their focus gets chosen for them. And then they wonder why they end the day exhausted but not fulfilled, busy but not productive, active but not progressing. But here's what you have to understand. Focus isn't about working harder. It's about working with intention. It's about deciding where your energy goes and refusing to let anything meaningless steal it. When you make even a small shift in how you manage your focus, you experience a dramatic shift in your results. Sometimes the shift is as simple as protecting the first 10 minutes of your morning. 10 minutes where the world doesn't get access to you. 10 minutes where you breathe, think, set your intention, or plan your next move. Those 10 minutes are like planting a flag in your day and saying, I decide how this day goes. It's a small shift, but it creates a massive psychological shift. You go from reactive to proactive, from scattered to centered. Another small shift might be recognizing the difference between movement and progress. Most people are in motion all day, running around, checking boxes, responding to everything, but they're not moving forward. They're busy, but they're not effective. They confuse activity with accomplishment. When you shift your focus toward high impact actions instead of constant busyness, you reclaim hours of your life. You start doing what matters instead of doing what fills time. And sometimes the shift is simply eliminating one distraction. Not all of them, just one. Maybe it's silencing your phone for an hour. Maybe it's closing unnecessary tabs. Maybe it's creating a distraction-free zone when you're working on something important. 1 hour of uninterrupted focus can produce more progress than an entire day of fragmented attention. That's the power of deep focus, a power most people haven't even tapped into yet. You become dangerous in the best way when you can focus deeply. You become unshakable. You start finishing what you start. You start seeing results faster because your energy isn't leaking everywhere. You begin to feel more in control of your life because you're finally directing your attention rather than letting the world scatter it for you. And the truth is, focus doesn't get taken from you. You give it away, you hand it over every time you respond to something unimportant. You surrender it every time you let distraction interrupt your momentum. But if you can give it away, you can also reclaim it. You can build the muscle, you can strengthen your awareness, you can decide what deserves your attention and what doesn't. Focus is a habit, attention is a choice. And every day, you get to make that choice again. Here's something most people don't realize. When you eliminate distractions externally, you also start eliminating distractions internally. When your outer world becomes more intentional, your inner world follows. Your mind becomes clearer, your thoughts become calmer, your decisions become sharper. It becomes easier to hear your intuition, easier to recognize what truly matters, easier to take the next step without hesitation. That clarity is priceless. Imagine what would happen if, from this moment on, you protected your focus like it was your most valuable asset, because it is. Imagine how your work would change, how your relationships would change, how your energy would change if you stopped letting small distractions control your day. Imagine what 2026 would look like if you spent less time being pulled in 1,000 directions and more time moving with purpose toward the life you actually want. You don't need to become perfect. You don't need to eliminate every distraction. You just need to make a small shift, a tiny adjustment in how you protect your attention. And just like every other shift, once you repeat it consistently, it becomes part of who you are, not someone who tries to focus, someone who naturally operates with intention, clarity, and purpose. When you master your focus, you master your future. One of the most underestimated forces in your life isn't money, skill, or luck. It's the people you surround yourself with. Relationships are the invisible architecture behind every result, every opportunity, every breakthrough. And yet most people treat relationships like they're optional, like they're secondary, like there's something that just happens instead of something that's cultivated intentionally. But here's the reality: the people you spend time with, the ones whose energy you absorb, the ones whose words you let shape your thinking, they determine the trajectory of your life far more than you realize. It starts with recognizing the power of your network, not just the number of connections you have, but the quality of those connections. Are they people who challenge you, who push you to grow, who inspire you to stretch beyond your comfort zone? Or are they people who drain your energy, who normalize mediocrity, who make excuses with you instead of helping you rise? Every day, you're either moving towards your goals or drifting away from them. And a huge part of that depends on who you let influence your thoughts, your habits, and your actions. A small shift in the way you approach relationships can yield massive results over time. It might be as simple as reaching out to someone you admire and asking a thoughtful question. It might be committing to listening more than you speak, to adding value before expecting it in return. It might be choosing to spend time with those who elevate your thinking instead of those who pull you down. That shift doesn't feel dramatic at first, but when repeated consistently, it compounds in ways most people never anticipate. Doors open, opportunities appear, and suddenly the world that felt distant feels accessible. The truth is, no one achieves extraordinary results alone. You can work harder than anyone else, push through every obstacle, and still plateau if you're not leveraging the wisdom, experience, and energy of the people around you. That's why small adjustments in how you relate to others can create massive momentum. A mentor, a coach, a peer, a collaborator. These aren't just nice to haves, they're accelerators. And you don't have to find a perfect mentor or a perfect friend. You just have to start engaging with people who reflect the next level you want to reach. The energy you invest in relationships multiplies your capacity to grow. It's not only about seeking guidance, it's about giving it as well. Relationships aren't transactional, they're reciprocal. When you contribute, when you support, when you genuinely invest in others' success, you create a flow that returns to you in ways you can't always anticipate. One small act of generosity, one conversation that adds value, one moment of listening with presence. These create ripples that extend far beyond what you see in the moment. And over time, those ripples become networks of influence, doors of opportunity, and sources of support you never knew you needed until the right moment arrived. Sometimes the shift is as subtle as changing how you communicate. Most people talk past each other, not with each other. They're waiting to respond instead of listening to understand. They're focused on themselves instead of noticing what others truly need. When you make the conscious choice to communicate with empathy, curiosity, and authenticity, the depth of connection transforms. Suddenly, you're not just interacting, you're influencing, inspiring, and building trust. And trust is the currency that makes relationships powerful. Without trust, you have contacts. With trust, you have allies who move mountains with you. Another part of this shift is being intentional with your environment. If you want to elevate your life, you have to elevate the circle around you. Surround yourself with people who model what you aspire to achieve. Surround yourself with people who embody the habits, the mindset, and the energy you want to cultivate. That doesn't mean leaving everyone behind, but it does mean prioritizing where your time goes and with whom. The closer you align yourself with people who push you forward, the faster you'll move toward the results you want. And remember, relationships are a long game. The most significant connections aren't built overnight. They're nurtured through consistency, presence, and integrity. They're built through showing up, keeping commitments, celebrating others' wins, and offering support without expecting immediate return. Small actions over time compound into trust, loyalty, and opportunity. By 2026, the relationships you invest in today will be the ones that open doors, solve problems, and accelerate your growth in ways that would have been impossible alone. You also have to recognize the value of diversity in your network. Surrounding yourself with people who think differently, who challenge your assumptions, who offer perspectives outside your own experience creates a broader field of vision. It pushes you to adapt, innovate, and expand. Stagnation thrives in echo chambers. Growth thrives in circles that test, stretch, and stimulate your thinking. The small shift is choosing to welcome those who challenge you, not to argue, but to expand. When you start to see relationships not as optional or incidental, but as strategic, transformative, and life-giving, your entire approach changes. You start showing up differently, you invest differently, you communicate differently, you prioritize differently, and that small, consistent shift in your relational energy multiplies into opportunities, support, mentorship, and breakthroughs that can carry you through challenges that would have crushed you alone. The moment you take control of who you spend your time with, how you communicate, and how you contribute, you create a force that propels you forward. That force can turn obstacles into opportunities, ideas into action, and ambition into tangible results. Your network, your circle, your relationships, they are not a detail. They are the engine behind your success. Energy is the hidden currency of achievement. Most people think success is about time, talent, or strategy, but the truth is, if you don't have energy, none of that matters. You can have the best plan, the sharpest mind, the clearest goals, but if your body is drained, your focus scattered, and your vitality low, you'll never execute at the level you're capable of. And here's the thing, managing your energy isn't about making huge sacrifices. It's about small, intentional shifts that compound over time. The first shift is understanding that your body is your engine. If your engine isn't running optimally, you'll never reach the speeds you need to achieve your goals. Small adjustments in sleep, nutrition, and movement create massive differences in how you feel and perform. Most people overlook this because they think they can push through fatigue. But pushing through is a slow drain, not a strategy. Recovery, focus, and energy are what create consistent momentum. By making just one small tweak, choosing to sleep an extra 30 minutes, replacing one processed meal with something nourishing, or moving your body in a way that energizes instead of exhausts, you start to reclaim power that was quietly leaking away every day. Movement isn't about hitting the gym for hours, it's about giving your body the circulation, oxygen, and stimulation it needs to stay sharp. Even short bursts, walking, stretching, a few minutes of body weight exercises, release endorphins, clear your mind, and increase mental acuity. Your brain functions better when your body is supported. You think faster, focus longer, and make better decisions when your energy is high. That's why the people who consistently perform at their best aren't just disciplined mentally, they treat their bodies the performance machines they are. Nutrition is another area where small shifts create massive results. Most people underestimate the power of what they put in their body. A single sugary snack, a late night binge, a skipped meal, they seem small in the moment, but over time, they compound into fatigue, irritability, and lack of clarity. Replacing those small moments with better choices, hydrating consistently, choosing whole foods, balancing protein, fats, and carbs doesn't feel dramatic, but the effect over weeks and months is exponential. Energy is like a bank account. Small deposits add up, and small withdrawals can drain you faster than you notice. Choose what fuels you, not what depletes you. Sleep is the most underrated energy tool. Most people treat it like a luxury when it's actually a necessity. Skipping sleep, burning the candle at both ends, thinking you're being productive, it's a false economy. Energy isn't something you can fake long term. Rest is where your body and mind recover, process, and prepare for peak performance. Even 1 extra hour of quality sleep each night completely shift your clarity, emotional resilience, and problem-solving ability. That's why energy management is a small shift with a massive return. But energy isn't just physical, it's emotional and mental too. Stress, worry, resentment, and negative thoughts drain more energy than anything else in your day. You can't fully perform if your mind is crowded with mental clutter. That's why small mental shifts, pausing to breathe, practicing gratitude, reframing challenges as opportunities, recharge your emotional battery. They create space for focus, creativity, and deliberate action. The small shift is learning to protect your emotional energy like you protect your body. It's non-negotiable and it fuels everything else. Another small adjustment is understanding your peak performance rhythms. Some people are sharpest in the morning, some at night. Most people ignore this and try to force themselves to be at their best when they're depleted. When you align your most demanding tasks with your natural energy highs and reserve low energy times for less critical work, you maximize efficiency without increasing effort. It's not working harder, it's working smarter in harmony with your own body and mind. Hydration is another tiny habit people ignore, but it has a huge impact. Even mild dehydration slows your brain, lowers your energy, and reduces your ability to focus. Drinking enough water is a small shift, but it's one that compounds instantly into better performance, higher mental clarity, and improved physical endurance. These are not dramatic changes, but when you stack them together consistently, the results are undeniable. When you make these energy shifts, small, daily, intentional, you start to notice a difference in how you show up in every area of your life. You handle challenges with calm instead of frustration, make better decisions instead of reactive ones, and create momentum instead of exhaustion. And here's the key, it's sustainable. You're not burning out to achieve success. You're building a foundation that allows you to perform at your peak day after day, week after week, year after year. That's how small adjustments in energy management compound into major results by 2026. By taking control of your body, your mind, and your energy, you create a platform for everything else in your life. Your focus becomes sharper, your relationships more vibrant, your productivity more consistent, and your resilience unshakable. The energy you cultivate becomes the fuel for the actions, decisions, and results that define your future. Energy is the currency that makes all other shifts possible. Most people underestimate the power of reflection and celebration. They assume that progress is only measured in big milestones, promotions, awards, paychecks, or titles. But the truth is those are the results of countless small steps that often go unnoticed. If you want to create lasting momentum, if you want to achieve the results you've been dreaming of by 2026, you have to learn to track progress and honor the wins along the way, not in a superficial way, but with intention, presence, and recognition for yourself. Because momentum isn't created in a single leap. It's built one deliberate step at a time. The first part of this shift is awareness. You have to know where you are right now, what you're doing consistently, and what's moving the needle in your life. Most people wander through days, weeks, and even months without ever taking stock of their actions. They get busy but not productive, active but not intentional. Tracking progress doesn't have to be complicated. It can be as simple as keeping a journal, making notes on your calendar, or using an app to track habits. The goal is not to create more work. The goal is to create clarity about what's working, what's not, and where you're headed. Clarity fuels action, and action fuels results. Once you're tracking, the next step is recognizing the wins, even the small ones. Most people have a tendency to only celebrate big achievements. But big achievements are made up of small victories. Did you stick to your plan today? Did you show up when it was hard? Did you push through a moment of doubt instead of giving in? That counts. Did you reach out to someone who could help you grow or take a step toward improving your energy or focus? That counts. Did you overcome procrastination and complete a task that mattered? That counts. Every small win is a signal that you are moving forward, that your habits are aligning with your vision, and that your momentum is building. Ignoring them is like ignoring deposits in your bank account and wondering why you're still broke. Celebration is not about arrogance or self-congratulation. It's about recognition and reinforcement. It's about telling your brain, this matters. This progress matters. When you celebrate small wins, you strengthen the neural pathways that make success feel familiar, natural, and achievable. You create a feedback loop that encourages you to continue taking action. The human brain is wired for reward, and by celebrating progress, you tap into that wiring, turning effort into energy, effort into confidence, and confidence into momentum. Another critical part of this shift is reflection. Celebrating wins is not just about the high of achievement. It's about understanding why it happened, what worked, and what you can repeat. Reflection gives you insight into your own behavior and choices. It's the practice of asking yourself, what did I do today, this week, this month that moved me closer to my goals? What patterns are helping me? What patterns are holding me back? Reflection is how you take raw experience and turn it into wisdom. Without it, progress can be random and inconsistent. With it, every small step compounds into mastery over time. Tracking and celebrating progress also build resilience. When life gets tough, and it will, having a record of your wins reminds you that you are capable, that you've overcome challenges before, and that you can overcome them again. It creates confidence, momentum, and emotional strength. You begin to see that failure is not a stop sign, but a stepping stone. You see that setbacks are temporary and forward movement is always possible when you consistently focus on progress, no matter how small it seems in the moment. The key is consistency. Small shifts in tracking and celebrating progress don't yield overnight results. The magic happens over time as habits compound and momentum accelerates. Imagine entering 2026 with a habit of daily reflection, a habit of marking every small win, a habit of acknowledging progress no matter how incremental. Imagine the confidence, clarity, and energy you'll carry forward. By then, the sum of those small moments becomes a massive advantage. You don't just achieve your goals, you transform yourself along the way, becoming someone who naturally creates results because they understand the rhythm of progress. Celebrating progress also changes your relationship with effort. Most people resist action because the results feel far away or uncertain. But when you celebrate progress, you experience immediate reward for your efforts. You begin to associate action with fulfillment, effort with energy, and persistence with growth. That shift changes everything. Suddenly, showing up consistently is no longer a burden. It's a habit, a lifestyle, a choice that feeds your own momentum and reinforces the results you're building. And finally, tracking and celebrating progress keeps your vision alive. Big goals can feel distant, abstract, or even overwhelming if you never pause to recognize the steps you've taken toward them. By tracking and celebrating, you keep the end goal in your mind, but stay grounded in the tangible actions of today. You learn that every moment, every small step, every micro shift matters. It creates a sense of control, a sense of purpose, and a sense of direction that most people never experience. By committed awareness, reflection, and celebration, you turn ordinary effort into extraordinary results. You don't just drift toward the future, you actively construct it. You take ownership of your growth, your success in your life. You transform small shifts into major results, step by step, day by day, year by year. Progress is made visible when you track it, made real when you celebrate it, and made unstoppable when you reflect on it consistently.